Welcome to the
It's
Opinionated Benchwarmers Podcast, episode 182. The Opinionated Benchwarmers are back to do what we do best, and that's discuss sports. Got the crew in here, man. How y'all fellas feeling today? Take the temperature in the room today.
good, man. I mean, it was a good Super Bowl outcome of what I wanted. We're gonna discuss that, and then obviously, Luka played his first game as we record on a Tuesday. I'm feeling good, man.
Yeah, no, same here, man. Feeling good as well. Like you said, the whole Luka debut, that's just been a whole thing as a Lakers fan, man. It's been a big time with that. And honestly, after a little side convo, obviously, that we had leading up to the Super Bowl, that kind of changed some things for me as well. I'll just leave those pieces off air for now at this point. But so I'm all good on my end. But you always check in with us, bro. We got to hear how you doing, man.
I'm feeling good, man. I mean, my Lakers looked great, awesome last night. I know it was the Utah Jazz and they suck, but it still was nice to see us play with energy and great on the defensive end. I know we'll get to it in a minute. So I'm feeling good, man, coming off that. And like Lo said, Philly won. So I was happy to see that. But man, let's start where it is. Let's talk about the Super Bowl, get that out the way because at this point, when you hear this as listeners, it'll be Wednesday. So people are starting to shift their attention to the NBA. But the Super Bowl quickly, what much of one it was a surprise to all of us as we'll get into it. 24-0 at halftime. Excuse me. Wow. And 40-22 win by the Chiefs in dominating fashion. It wasn't
By the Eagles,
close.
by the Eagles.
By the Eagles, what am I doing? See, but I mean, it just was the fashion that they won that game. I mean, it wasn't close. The Eagles had 6 sacks. They didn't even run a blitz the whole game. Just a pure dominant performance. Even when you look at Patrick Mahomes' numbers, they look mundane, like normal Patrick Mahomes numbers, but a lot of that was in garbage time. It was worse. I think he had a 1 point or maybe negative QBR going into halftime. Patrick Mahomes did. Just not a good Super Bowl at all. It wasn't entertaining at all. The Super Bowl halftime show wasn't that great either. I mean, it just was an all around just year for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I was just hoping for more of a game, and it was just wasn't there. And as you mentioned, like the Eagles front four owned that game. And when you got a front four and you don't have to blitz and you can just get after the pass rusher, it gives you such an advantage. And, Patrick Mahomes just looked anything but himself during this game. And, they just dominated. Anytime he would step up and try to do his Patrick Mahomes thing, scramble around, they were on him, like white on rice. And so again, it was frustrating as a fan watching it. Like I wanted the Eagles to win. I don't know if I wanted them to dominate. I wanted to see more of a game, and then I felt like, towards the end you started seeing some big plays. I don't know if that was because, the Eagles kind of let they third, fourth string come into the game. But again, overall, I was kind of disappointed in what the rollout was. I had a feeling the Eagles was going to get their lick back from 2022, and Jalen Hurts was asked that in the press conference, actually by a kid, is this your year to get your lick back? And he said, we'll see. So he clearly stepped up. And on the defense, on the other side of the ball, when you look at the Chiefs, they had a game plan of shut down Saquon Barkley. If you would have told me going into that game, the Eagles will score 40 points, and I'm sorry, if you would have gone into that game, you told me that Saquon only rushed for 57 yards and that was your result at the end of the game, I would have said, yeah, the Chiefs won that game. But obviously they didn't. Their game plan was to put it into Jalen Hurts' hands and see if he can beat them. And he proved that he did, and that's why he was the MVP.
Yeah, I echo really the same sentiments, kind of just jumping off of that. Like you said, I mean, Jalen Hurts proved that he was able to step up in the moment. It's something that we said going into the game, honestly, that Jalen Hurts was going to have to make some plays. And he did that time and time again, drive after drive, finding his guys, but also too utilizing his legs whenever he had to utilize that. And he really showed that, maybe he isn't, I know that people don't like to stick him in that elite category, but maybe he isn't quite as mid as everyone wants to say he is. He's a quarterback that was able to capitalize on what the defense gave him, the opportunities that they did. And I think that that's something that has to be recognized. And I think that just overall, the Eagles defense, I know that they dominated up front, but they secondary throughout the entire year. I think, what the number one pass defense in the NFL this year. And it really just showed too how pedestrian really the weapons are for Patrick Mahomes really at this point. We know that D Hop isn't the same guy that he used to be within his career. We know not to depend on a Juju Smith-Schuster or anything at this point. Of course, Xavier Worthy showed a little bit of flash, a little bit, of course, later in that game, but it just showed too that even the weapons right now for Kansas City are a little bit pedestrian. But that's not to take away, obviously, from the dominant performance of the Eagles. That came down to ultimately the way that defense performed. If they could have given kind of a total cumulative MVP award to something, you would have looked at the defense particularly. But as y'all mentioned as well too, it made it to be a boring Super Bowl. Like it really didn't even feel like the Super Bowl to me, like in any aspect, even as it related to the commercials and all of that. Nothing felt like the Super Bowl. And so, just kind of breezed on past that, but that's pretty much my take at this point.
I do enjoy the Matthew McConaughey commercials, and for one, I don't know about you guys, I'm kind of starting to buy his theory that football is trying to sell you food. I'm starting to kind of see where he's coming from with that one, but that's neither here nor there. But to discuss further, what my mind began to spin about Patrick Mahomes' legacy. He's gotten off to an awesome start, one of the best NFL quarterback careers that we can even think of. I mean, he's been to five Super Bowls so far. He's been in the league for what, 8 years. So I mean, it's amazing what he's been able to accomplish. But for the Eagles to have made him look so average, like to say that Jalen Hurts outplayed him, I never thought I would be saying that after this game.
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely would never come into this game. I would have believed that would have happened, But again, again, it's every game, and you just look at the run that the Eagles have had over the playoffs. They've dominated every team but the Rams, and I just want to slip that in there.
Turn into a Rams podcast again as
I just
usual.
want to say the Rams were a sack away from taking them and beating the team. But outside of that, they dominated every team they played in the playoffs. And, again, you speak to just that team and the build of that team. And, you have nobody but to blame. But again, the Giants for this situation. The Giants let a guy slip out of their hands and go to your rivalry and within your division because for what reason to pay a quarterback that's not even on your team anymore. But again, that's neither here nor there. Again, this team is young. This team looks like they're still going to compete for years to come. And so, hats off to Jalen Hurts. We got to get a man some respect, man. It's
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I'll say
Yep.
this: I do apologize to Jalen Hurts for whatever I said about him being mid and average. He played phenomenal,
Yeah.
and I'm a man, so I can admit when I'm wrong. And I was wrong about this gentleman. He has a Super Bowl ring, so he
Yep.
has to be above that tier. He has something that Joe Burrow doesn't have. He has something that Brandon Allen doesn't have. Josh Allen doesn't have. So Brandon Allen don't have one either. But you know, it he's on another level, and I respect him, and I apologize to all the Eagles fans out there.
Yeah, yeah, and just and circling back to, I know you were mentioning the Mahomes discussion and the legacy and things of that sort. I think that the thing that you have to weigh is that, of course, we know Mahomes has really just been trying to put himself in that place of having a chance to be the GOAT. And when I look at this second Super Bowl loss, obviously he's had a loss that he's taken to Tom Brady within his career in the Super Bowl. Also did lose to Tom Brady as well in the AFC Championship, which we won't go back into that AFC Championship in details anymore. But with saying that, honestly, it doesn't exclude him from having a chance to work his legacy up to getting to that point. But anytime you get to the big game and you lose on that big stage and lose in that fashion, he's had honestly two Super Bowls where he's had blowout losses. The first one, obviously, we know that his offensive line was decimated, and so we know he was running for his life in that game. But honestly, once again, you find yourself in another game where you've gotten blown out in the Super Bowl, and I think that that's something that we can't ignore. We can find every other reason to say this unit dominated or he didn't have this or that weapon, but when we ultimately get down and we're talking GOAT discussion, we have to include those factors, and I think that this game kind of put a little, it widened the gap a little bit between he and Tom Brady from that standpoint, from a sheer legacy standpoint. I won't say from a talent or whatever, but sheer legacy standpoint, it made it more difficult for him to ever reach that GOAT status.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the GOAT tag has to be taken off. We have to table that discussion at least for a couple more years. 3-2 in the Super Bowl. Of course, you have to get there. So I'm not discounting his greatness to be to the Super Bowl 5 times at this point in his career. Multi NFL MVP. However, it's what you said. The point differential. If you even look at the point differential from the GOAT, we call Tom Brady, in the difference between his point differential, Patrick Mahomes, I don't want to believe that that's plus 40 that he's lost in the combination of being blown out by Tampa Bay and then now being blown out by the Eagles. So well, Patrick Mahomes still has some more work to do.
Yeah, I agree.
But as we move on, let's scurry away. You know, you see in the background, you got the Florida lead. You know, you got the Saints terrible towel and the Saints helmet in the background. Big news: Kellen Moore. 2 days after winning the Super Bowl, the New Orleans Saints officially made him their head coach. I know that you guys are itching to hear my thoughts. Maybe not, but you're gonna hear them anyway. But anyway, I'm joking. Anyway, but just to get into, if you don't know who he is, you know, he was Dallas Cowboys offense coordinator for a couple seasons. He was with the Los Angeles Chargers with his buddy Brandon Staley out at the Chargers. Brandon Staley got fired, so he ended up with the Philadelphia Eagles and won a Super Bowl. My personal thoughts, and I'll keep it quick, guys, and not spinning around the horn. But I think quickly, I like the hire. You know, if you think historically of what we've been doing, it seems like we can't get that Sean Payton aura out of our locker room, and we've finally done that by hiring outside of that tree. I think that we've done a nice job, but let's be real about it. I mean, I think any hire, if we would hire Ramon Hardy or Carlos Burrell, we'd have a better head coach than we did in Dennis Allen. I didn't have any faith in Dennis Allen. I think that he was terrible coach, terrible decision maker, took no ownership. So it's nice to have some new blood. Maybe we mimicking ourselves after the Rams, who hired the youngest NFL coach at the time in McVay. Cause hopefully it works out the same, and we're able to get a Super Bowl out of it. But and quite honestly, I think that he was the last resort. When you look at the guys that rescinded, we had two coaches rescind their interest in the position. Aaron Glenn left and went to the Jets on us. McCarthy rescinded his interest in it. Cliff Kingsbury rescinded his self as well. So I mean, I'm a objective Saints fan and understanding that it's a tall task for Brandon Staley to take it over. But at the same time, let's do something. Let's take a risk. Let's get younger. Let's get a good offensive mind in there. So I'm excited about it. I can talk myself into it. I don't know. It remains to be seen how successful we will be. He's taking over a tough situation with us being $50 million over the cap. However, we do have a ninth pick in our back pocket, and it starts there. But overall, I'm okay with it, and let's see what we got this season.
No, I think those were great thoughts. I think you kind of got to hit yourself with the Brandon Staley hire there,
Yeah.
but it's all good. Kellen Moore,
What you
Brandon Staley.
mean?
You
You
said
now you
Brandon
admit,
Staley.
yeah,
Oh,
Brandon
Brandon Staley.
Staley
Oh
is
yeah, yeah,
rumored to be our defensive
yeah, yeah,
coordinator,
yeah,
which is
yeah, yeah, yeah.
again, he's a
I got
guy
ahead of
that
myself. Yeah.
yeah. He's a guy that definitely coached well when he coached for the Rams. His tenure with the Chargers
He was the
wasn't
number
as
one
well.
defense that year. Y'all had the number one
Yeah,
defense that year.
yeah, he coached well. He didn't do so well with the Chargers as a head coach. He was a bold head coach, so hopefully Kellen can kind of balance that in between that. So
Yeah.
sometimes guys are better in their positions as defensive coordinator. They're not built for the head coach position. I would say that for Steve Spagnuolo for the Chiefs. You know, he had his shot at head coach, and then he went back defensive coordinator. And he's a great defensive coordinator, and he's been leading his team obviously
Is
to the
he?
Super Bowl. Now, I would say he's a great
After this
defensive
Super
coordinator.
Bowl? After this Super Bowl?
Hey, when your quarterback turns it over twice in his own territory, ain't much your defense can do in that
Yeah.
That's true.
situation.
That's true.
And
That's
shutting
true.
down Saquon Barkley to 57 yards,
Yeah, he
it's
did. He
not.
Yeah.
did.
It's
No, I agree.
again the
Nah,
defense.
yeah.
Defense
I'm
has
just
been there.
potting right now. Don't mind me. I'm just potting.
But again, I like the hire for you guys. There's a young, new energy in there. I think if the organization is willing to take the bumps and bruises with Kellen Moore and realizing that this team is not going to go to the playoffs next year, this is not a playoff team next year. You're gonna have to grow
Hey,
and let
Yeah,
him get.
he getting loose over there. He
yeah,
had to
you
say it
got
more
yeah,
than
too
once.
little. So, yeah,
You're gonna have to grow with this team. You're gonna have to take your bumps. You're gonna have to fix your cap situation with this team. You're gonna have to get off of some of these veteran guys and start letting him get his system in there. I think again he's putting some veteran coaches around him that had head coach experience, which is good. Is a lot like what Sean McVay did do when he hired Wade Phillips as an OG coach in the league. You want to put some experience around this first time head coach. Again, I remember Kellen Moore when he played for Dallas, which is crazy, and he went straight to offensive coordinator. Now
Yeah,
he's a head coach. So his incline has been crazy. His
yeah.
it's so I'm excited to see what he does with this team. Again, I don't like what he got to work with, but let's see how the offseason play
all
out.
right, bro.
Yeah,
Let
I
Ramon take
thought
over because
you.
there's
I
too
th
much Saint hate coming
right,
out his mouth,
right.
man.
I thought he was really gonna take it back to Kellen Moore Boise State days. That's where he first made his name known. But I think that y'all, of course, went in the opposite direction of what y'all did. Last time as far as coming in and having a young, innovative offensive mind instead of going with a defensive kind of coach. Y'all went with a young, innovative offensive mind. He's led a number one offense before in his career with Dallas. I think with the Cowboys, 3 out of his 4 years, they were a top 10 offense in the league. Obviously, we were able to see what he did, of course, with the Eagles, with this year, with being top 10 in overall offense and scoring offense. And so I think that that's kind of y'all's thought process because, I know that many times that we've got on this podcast after that amazing 2-0 start that y'all had, and we've talked about how pedestrian the offense was and how you hated the play calling week in and week out and how things were very predictable. And so I think that y'all decided, you know what, we're gonna go a different direction. We're gonna hit a 180 on this one, and we're gonna try to bring in the young, innovative offensive mind. We're gonna maybe try to replicate a little bit of those years with Sean Payton, with that being more so the focus. And if y'all can nail the defensive hire, then I think you put yourself in really good position. So I still think ultimately with this team going forward, I'm not really a Derek Carr guy, so it's just figuring out, what y'all ultimately decide and figure out in regards to that. But I think Kellen Moore is worth the shot. He's worth the opportunity. And right now, you just need the organization to be 100% behind that hire.
Appreciate you guys. We'll see how it goes, man. Nobody wanted us, but Kellen, remember, Kellen Moore did. So no matter what you Saints fans say about him and criticizing him, he took on the challenge when no one else would. But anyway, as we move on, we move into the Lakers. I mean, it's none other than appropriate if you look at the Lakers hat that Carlos has on his head, which is a nice hat. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube, by the way. Shameless plug. But I want to talk about, before we get to Luka's debut, obviously we have to discuss this interesting story about this Mark Williams trade. We were all excited about this guy. And historically, a former Dookie. I won't steal your thunder here, Ramon, as a Dookie fan. I know that you're a diehard Duke fan, but the trade involved multiple pieces, and including our rookie that we just drafted, Dalton Connect. But that trade was rescinded. We learned a couple days ago. It's reported, and then it was reported yesterday that Charlotte plans to try to see if they have any opportunity to appeal it. So literally, Mark Williams flew to LA, got a physical by us, and was like, we looked under the curtain, was like, let's send him back. I've never seen anything like this in my young life of watching and following the NBA. This is an insane situation. We thought that we had our promising center, and we was excited about it. We all discussed it offline, but the Lakers must have really found out some really, really disturbing details on that physical.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at it, man, and how much the Lakers gave up, they basically gave up two first round picks to get this guy in and a pick swap. When you look at how much draft capital and everything, and you corner yourself in with this guy, you want to make sure that this guy is going to be available for you for the next 4 or 5 years. I think, initially from all the reports and everything, they said they did their like research before they made the trade. But when they, like you mentioned, got him and looked under the hood and realized, like, okay, being this long, being this big, we've seen before in the history of centers that they can decline pretty quickly. We talk about an Andrew Bynum for the OG Lakers fans that his injury history he was a young stud, but 3 4 years he declined quickly, and I think the Lakers did not want to get into a situation like that where they stuck and gave all their picks, their promising rookie up. for a guy that may not even be there and injured down the road. You know, there was reports about his back. They declined that. I don't know if they were trying to save face with this guy or what. But again, those type of injuries, they had to be serious for the Lakers to publicly come back and say, "Hey, nah, we're good." It had to be some serious things because I think, from the embarrassment and from the standpoint of Dalton Connect now coming back to the team and you just shipped me off, like how awkward is that, And I seen him on the bench. He did not look like himself. I'm hoping that he can come back around and realize that, hey, it's not personal. It's just
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. No, 100%. I mean, the reports came out that he told JJ Redick that he needed a little bit more time before he actually starts playing. So he's still trying to, I guess, get his head together and wrap his head around it. And my thought process, man, you're a rookie, you on your first deal, your first contract. This is business. It's not like you didn't put in forever with the organization. So it's just a business move, and you have to understand what you're getting into. But that's a whole nother piece. But as it relates even to the Mark Williams piece, I think that he's kind of the biggest loser in this whole deal. He won, first of all, yeah, no, you can go ahead and say it.
He
I
almost made it out.
yeah, right.
He
So you
almost made
almost
it out.
you almost made it out of
Oh,
Charlotte, and you're gonna have the opportunity to play with Luka and LeBron. So you already know what that's gonna do for you because we were just talking, of course, offline too about what that's doing for Jackson Hayes. So you already know what that's gonna do for you as a big. But not only does the rug get pulled from under you, but then you pretty much get broadcast as like damaged goods, and your value gets tanked. And then you got to go back to a team that one wanted to move you. Then when they quote unquote things got rescinded, they were like, "Oh, the Lakers, just pursued him so heavily, and we're so happy to have Mark Williams back, and we love Mark Williams." But now then, y'all want to contest things. So just imagine if their appeal does not work, which I hope that it doesn't work at this point, and Mark Williams has to go back there. What do you do to salvage that? You've told a player, "Okay, I want you gone." Then, okay, now that it's public about your injury stuff, we want you back. Your value has been tanked, and then now we say once again the Lakers didn't do us right. We still want to ship you off. Like I think that he's been the biggest loser in the process, and I think that this is going to set a big precedent for the league going forward of how these kind of things are handled based upon whatever decision is made. And I still think ultimately it's going to rest on with the Lakers in. I don't think that it's going to have to be forced to go through based upon the evaluations that were taken. But this is one of the craziest things that I've ever seen.
Yeah, poor Mark Williams. I mean, I don't know how I feel. I get shipped across the country, literally from the East Coast to the West Coast, and they're like, nah, I'm sending you back. But anyway, let's get to what we really came here to talk about, and that's Luka Doncic's debut. He had a very mild 14-4-5 debut, but I don't look at the stat sheet. I just look at his impact on the game. Clearly, he wasn't 100%. He's just coming back. Hadn't played since Christmas Day. But I mean, it was nice to see him and LeBron and how they really worked themselves out. By the way, before I move on, we did sign Alex Lynn. So that's huge news. We just finished wrapped that up. It was rumored that we would. So that will give us some help on center. He can rebound. He can be a big body under there to supplement Jackson Hayes. But we did sign Lakers signed Alex Lynn just now, so that's good. But anyway,
Six additional fouls right there. There we
you're
go.
right. Exactly. So, but back to Luca's debut. I mean, it was a wonderful setting. You saw the 77 jerseys, which I need one of those 77 jersey shirts in the building. But we welcomed him. I think for the first time, Luca was nervous. I never seen Luca nervous. He's always on that table. You could really tell that he was nervous. But it was nice to see the Lakers are playing some darn good ball. And I think that, with Austin Reeves having 20 points with Luka and LeBron on the floor, that is a good sign for us because that means that AR's the usage will not drop, hopefully, and he's able to coincide. And I loved how JJ staggered their minutes because he's playing, he showed us the blueprint of what he's gonna do. And once he has them and once Luka gets comfortable, I think the sky is the roof. And I said that.
Okay, MJ.
And I know
MJ,
I
go
said
ahead.
that. I said it. I said
you
it.
got on there.
No, I agree with you, man. I think they rolling out the Lakers rollout of Luca has been great. From the standpoint, from the detail of the jerseys, the jerseys, or whatever you want to call them, laid out. From LeBron letting him go last in the intro because I was watching the game and as they were introducing, I was like, I wonder if LeBron's gonna go last. Because again, And it came out later that LeBron actually texted him and said, "Hey, this is your night. You going last. It will change going forward for respect for what LeBron's obviously done over his career. But again, I like that he did give him that night that he's the last one introduced. And again, I just look at the game and I watched the game and I watched it closely. What better team to play and to get warmed up than the Utah this game, and then again tomorrow as we record on Wednesday we play them again. This is a softer team that is not as good, where he doesn't have to push himself as much. But I will say this: watching the game, he didn't look 100%, and I don't know. I don't know if he's just kind of coming back slowly and don't want to push himself, but just watching him, he didn't look 100%, like he just didn't trust that calf just yet. So I'm interested to see how he's managed over the last few months of the season, hoping that injury can 100% heal as we go into this playoff run. And then I just want to take this time out too to give a shout out to JJ Redick. At the beginning of the season, we were talking about how Darvingham, the record's the same, and Darvingham, the records are not the same. Or I'm sorry, Darvingham actually has a better record now at this point of the season. That's not even being talked about no more, as the Lakers in fight for pretty much close to the number 2 seed right now. So it just shows how much that coaching actually freaking matters. And I love this team. I love what they're doing. As you mentioned with the Alex Lynn sign, Luka, man, he just sees the game different, man. Just from his passing, from his just wide open shot. Rui is about to eat, man. Them corner threes, Rui is about to eat all season long because he's gonna be wide open because they're gonna help on the help
DFS
side.
too.
So
Yeah.
DFS
Yep.
gonna eat
yeah,
too.
I think,
yeah.
like you said it, man, the key thing to me that stuck out really is the passing. Like, honestly, I don't think it's disputable at this point that, especially from a starting lineup standpoint, the Lakers have the best passing team, like, in the league. As far as when you talk about what Luka brings on that aspect of the game, what LeBron brings as a passer, and what Reeves brings as a passer and a playmaker, I don't think it's disputed that any other starting unit has a better passing trio than those guys. And I think that, you really start kind of really the potential there. Like you said, how Rui will be able to eat. We saw Jackson Hayes pretty much have what, like 5 lobs basically that he caught. Last night it was just kind of insane to see that dynamic. But I think the thing that stuck out to me as well too is we talked about how LeBron just seemed very amped up and energized. Like, I haven't seen LeBron play that type of defense or move that type of way in a long time. Like, it was like almost as if, especially defensive, like he was even over amped, like moving like I ain't seen him before. I don't know if y'all know that video where they had that guy that's like scanning the groceries and he like moving his head unnecessarily to make it seem like he moving fast. Like, that's how I felt Bron was looking when he was playing defense, because he was just that amped up. But what it's gonna do is that it's gonna keep him and Luka fresh for a playoff run and also to play deep in games, because now you can stagger their minutes. You have basically for 48 minutes that you can have a playmaker that you feel comfortable with, because I feel very comfortable with Austin Reeves handling and facilitating the offense. So when you have 3 guys that can do that, now they don't have to carry that weight on their shoulders. And I think what it's going to do and produce, you're going to see not that he's going to become lockdown, but you're going to see Luka play better defense. You're going to see LeBron play better defense. You're going to see Austin Reeves play better defense, because they aren't going to carry as much of a load offensively as they're accustomed to. So I just think that, man, it was exciting to see it. It's exciting to like witness. And I think that we got to live in the moment for like what we're actually seeing. Oh, I see you over there. I think we got to live in the moment for what we're actually seeing and witnessing, that like this is history before our eyes. And I know that we're accustomed to these kind of things as Lakers fans, but we can't overlook like this is setting up for the next decade of Lakers basketball, and it's exciting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, well said by both of you gentlemen. And I'll just, take this time to just Austin Reeves, man. He dropped 45 without LeBron, without Luka in the previous game. And he's been playing well for the past month. He's been playing some good basketball, highly underrated. We're so lucky and blessed to have him on his cheap contract. But for him to have plus 27 last night, plus 27 plus or minus, I mean, that's pretty remarkable playing with Luka and LeBron. But I think that's a wrap, fellas. I think we did it again. I think LeBron, Los had something for us. Los, you
No,
got
I
something
was
for us?
going. I was on the more on the Laker side. I just want to give a shout out to Josh Goodwin too. I don't know if you guys been paying
Oh yeah,
attention,
he
but
was brought the
dude
energy,
is
man.
last two
Yeah.
games from a standpoint. I was worried a little bit about the Max Christie trade. As we know, we love Max Christie and what he's done, and we developed him. But Josh Goodwin has stepped into that role of just being a pest on defense, and I like what he brings. And we're gonna need guys like that come playoff time. But that
Yeah.
was it.
And I think to add to that, I think that we're going to end up needing to waive somebody because right now, of course, he's on that two-way contract. So when you're on that, you technically can't play in the playoffs. But he seems to me a guy that's working his way into that rotation. Obviously, we saw him playing over a guy like Shake Milton and getting more minutes. So I think that honestly, somebody else is going to get waived in addition to, of course, knowing that Christian Wood got waived for the Alex Len signing. So just be on the lookout of that, of who's going to be that next guy that gets waived, because I think that he's playing his way into a role that we want to see in the playoffs.
Poor Christian Wood. I saw him on the bench the other night. I was like, man, I forgot he was on the team. Like he was holding on, traveling with the team. He was engaged. But yeah, fellas, man, exciting day in sports, man. Exciting week in sports, man. I'm very appreciative to do this with y'all episode out, man. If you don't follow us already, O_underscore Benchwarmers on Twitter and Instagram. We are on YouTube. Search us up, Opinionated Benchwarmers. Hit the bell to get notified on when we drop content on our YouTube. And make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube. It means so much to us and our numbers and the movement we're trying to create. And until next time, we are out of here.
Later.